Hi everybody, and you're very welcome today to Limerick City County Council for the briefing of the public art intervention on O'Connell Street. I'm sure you're aware it's quite a significant financial commitment from Limerick City County Council, so we decided we'd do a public briefing to answer any questions or any other issues you may have, and also it's being recorded for general, what would you say, distribution. Thank you. So we have a sheet over there advising you that it will be up for public viewing, and if anybody has an issue with that, please do let us know. And it's also a sign-in sheet just there on that table, so if you could all sign in as well. And also to advise, if there are any questions I can't answer you right now, if the Arts Office are better placed to answer any questions, I'll take the question and we'll email it, the answer around. Okay? So to introduce myself, I'm Maria Donoghue. I work in design and delivery here in the council, and I'm the project manager for the O'Connell Street Revitalisation project. And the project is really a drive to bring Limerick forward. It's part of the drive to create a Limerick City Centre that is an engine of commerce, industry, livability, culture for the region. And this is underpinned by the Limerick 2030 plan, and that is in the appendix. It's one of the appendices of your brief. Now, you don't need to read the strategic document, but that's just to give you an idea of where we're coming from. And the funding for the O'Connell Street project, the revitalisation project, is under that Limerick 2030 heading. So, as part of the works that we're doing on O'Connell Street, we felt that it would be good to put a very, I suppose, a cutting edge or progressive piece of art, something that looks forward, that celebrates the future, that reflects a progressive and a dynamic city into O'Connell Street. It doesn't necessarily have to be a statue. It can be some other piece of landmark art or urban art, you know. And we have used intentionally the wording public art intervention. I would say I might get into trouble by saying this, but I'm inviting controversy here. I am. Because we'll probably get into trouble. We can't please everyone, so we may as well go for as high quality as we can get. Okay? So I've a little presentation here, and it's just to explain the scheme. And oh, hello Sheila. Sheila Deegan is joining us from the Arts Office here in the council.
Hi. How are you doing?
So I was just bringing them through. So I'll just keep going. We started bang on time.
Brilliant.
I know.
I had so far to go.
Well, the day I got married was the first day I was ever early for anything. So I'm the important things. So this is just an overview of the O'Connell Street project. I don't know if anybody has seen the drawings for the Part 8. And it's been divided now into 2 phases, and we're working on the first phase at present, going from Arthur's Quay Shopping Centre entrance to just after the junction with Cecil Street. And our site for this art competition is here at the junction of O'Connell Street with Thomas Street. And I suppose if you look at O'Connell Street as a whole, the crescent at the top of O'Connell Street, which terminates it, it has a sort of a curved element in it. So you could say that this is almost like a new Daniel O'Connell, but that's not what we're looking for. But we're leaving that space there, if you like, for whatever artwork we select for the commission. This is it at a bigger scale. So if this is Carl Scarpa here, this is the space that comes out and creates like an arc with the traffic. So what we're proposing at this place, in this location, is 1 lane for buses and 1 lane for cars. There may be cycle lanes included. We're still in planning at the moment. So we're not 100% sure that this will be the final outcome of the proposal, but I can assure you it will be in this location. And that's just a close-up of the types of materials. It'll be granite sets. The blue here is actually, it'll just be like granite, what would you say, corduroy paving, to let people know that they're going from a pedestrian-only area out into an area that will be trafficked. This is also a pedestrian priority area, and this is a move to really emphasise that. We want people to linger. O'Connell Street will become a destination. This scheme for O'Connell Street is adaptable and can evolve. So in time, and I mean in 5 years, this could be a fully pedestrianised place. but we can't do that now because we haven't the city infrastructure ready yet. But O'Connell Street needs to be revitalised, and this is our move to do this. So just taking some of the images we had in our Part 8 submission, this is just a typical, well, I don't know if it's typical, you wouldn't see that on a Monday morning now in November on O'Connell Street, but you might see it in the summertime, maybe during Riverfest, the street as a place of activity, as a place of congregation. We've indicated artwork in the background. Please do not take that as an indication of what we want. It was purely to set this area out as the location for whatever art will be selected. This is a more usual view of O'Connell Street at night time in November with the mist. I actually really like this view. Maybe it's my home time view, so that's why I like it so much. But this is the area here. So it could be something that's about night time, about light. You know, Ireland is... Sorry, I'll keep going. Okay, so it's very much a place that you will have darkness. You know, we have winter with our long nights. And so this is very much, it could be about light, as I said, or it could be about something that's not maybe visible during the day. And then this would be maybe just a typical Friday afternoon or whatever. And as I said, the art there is not typical of what we're looking for. I would not take that as an indicator of what we want. This is the junction. I don't know, is everybody here from Limerick?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, you're not from Limerick. So are you going to go up O'Connell Street?
I've taken photographs of it.
Have you? You know the spot, so it's grand. Well, I don't need to tell you then that this is the junction with Thomas Street and O'Connell Street. And it's quite a pleasant junction as it is. Hopefully after we do our work it'll be much nicer. It'll be a place where people can hang out. This is already quite heavily pedestrianised street anyhow. And there are lots of lanes at the back that we're hoping will key into what we're doing. And so this art would help really underline that. We were keen as well to show that the art doesn't have to necessarily reflect the past. It doesn't have to be a figure or a representation of somebody or something that happened in the past, although O'Connell Street is very important urbanistically, we'll say. This is the Collis map. This is the 250th anniversary of the Collis map, which was basically, it was the first mark of, or the projection of Limerick as a Georgian city. So this is I don't have the actual map. Our funds don't go that far, but this is a copy of it. So if you like this, I'm guessing this is the junction here. And there was, you'll see it in the brief, there was a church built on the site, which was dismantled and stone reused. So this has always been a place of breaking the grid, even in its earliest imaginings. So we want to continue that. It has a significance. We're not doing anything against the Georgian sensibilities by placing something here that breaks that grid. And so we would really endorse that this is something for the future, but we're taking from the past as our precedent. As I said earlier, then O'Connell Street is ended or terminates with the crescent. And again, we have that precedent set up already of something that goes against the grid, a curve with an island or figure within it. Now this is actually an island. You can't actually get to Daniel O'Connell unless unless it's incredibly quiet or you're on Rag Week in Mary I. But other than that, a precedent again has been set up. The street is punctuated with art along it. Again, the rhythm of the Georgian facades, quite austere, but when you go up closer, they're very fine. Maybe the art is something like that. Maybe it's something with austerity, that a closer look. You look and there's much finer detail as you discover. I don't know. But that would be taking the Georgian and representing it then as something new, which would be great. Again, we're looking down then at the more commercial end of O'Connell Street, and you've lost that fineness or that uniformity. But you still have the plot thicknesses, I guess, and you still have the proportions of solid to void there. We said we put in a few images of something, I suppose, not something similar, but similar approaches. If we think of, say, this city, which I know you're all very familiar with it probably, Bilbao, which was like Limerick. It was an industrial city. It lost the functions of its port, and it was left then with a lot of unemployment. So they decided to utilise and to celebrate the art culture in that part of Spain. So this is a very fun piece of sculpture outside the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao. Quite an expensive flower puppy. We don't have 30 million, but it's very significant in that it was fun, it was playful, and people connected with it. Then we had also Nantes, in the last number of years. You're familiar with the giant grandmother. So this is the same company who helped revitalise Nantes through art. And Nantes, again similar to Bilbao and to Limerick, had a very strong port culture and lost its industry, and then focused on art to bring life back to the city centre. And you can see that there's very little that these have in common other than they're animals, but again, they're very progressive, they're looking ahead, whilst drawing from the past. So this is probably drawing from the industry of this region to project the future. And then there's the Angel of the North, again, very simple, symbolic piece of sculpture. It's very grand in its scale. And it could be something as simple as that. But again, it's something that would take people off the road from Shannon Airport on the way to Kerry and going into Limerick to see this. This city has a great art college. God, they've got great stuff going on here. Look at the gallery. Shakers. Did you see the sculpture? So that's kind of what we're trying to invest in. We believe in it, so we want to put it out there. And then The Little Mermaid, I think, is a great example of taking something that celebrates a figure, but actually takes something that's mythical or imaginary and celebrates that. And it's tiny. So I suppose the scale of this as well is so small. I suppose I'm trying to show through this that it doesn't have to be gigantic or bombastic. It can be very thoughtful and considered, but small. So the competition launched. We launched there a couple of weeks ago, as you realise. We pushed out the queries deadline by a week. So initially we had the 6th of September as our queries deadline. So we've pushed that out by a week already. So the 13th of September. And our registration deadline is the 12th of September. So the day before the queries deadline is the registration deadline. And our submission deadline is the 16th of September. So it's quite close. And before the end of September, we'll have selected 5 submissions to go through to stage 2. And we anticipate we'll have selected somebody before Christmas time, because we want to create it and include it in the phase 1 of the O'Connell Street scheme, so that it's not staggered. We don't have the street and then 6 months later the statue, or whatever it is, the art piece. And it doesn't have to be a statue. So then the submission requirements, again, I'm just going to reiterate it because it may have got buried in all of the text in the brief, but we have our A1 panel in a portrait format, so that's long side down, in PDF or JPEG at a 10 megabyte maximum size, with our plan sections and elevations of whatever you're submitting, and any 3D visuals. And as you know, if it's a night time, if it's a light piece, if it is in light for nighttime, that's really what your visuals should go to explain. You need a written response, a summary of your intentions and your concepts. So what's the idea behind this? So if it's very abstract and we can't see immediately what you're trying to achieve, you'll give us that background. How the proposal relates to the context of both O'Connell Street and Limerick being the region as well as the city. And you have to set out also how the commission will be achieved. So how it could be created, how it could be built. Then the proposed budget breakdown, the artist or team members' fees, development costs, production costs, any costs that are in relation to interaction with stakeholders or communities. There will be a lot of interest in this. There's a lot of interest in the revitalisation project anyhow. So this will draw more attention. So you may have to, if you're not from Limerick, you may have to come to Limerick to meet with stakeholders or councillors or whoever. Any insurances involved, contingencies, and we'd like a total value of the proposed commission. And then in support of all of that, we need some CVs from you or your team members, and also examples of recently completed work of a similar type, we'll say 3 maximum relevant projects. And that's it. So has anybody any questions?
Do you have the dimensions that you're giving of the space?
We don't. I don't have them to hand. I can send those out to you, if that's all right. Now, it will be the width. You're given free rein, realistically. You're given the whole of the width of Thomas Street, if you like, but you can't block it. Obviously, we'd need people to be able to move around it.
Yeah.
I suppose the whole drive around the O'Connell Street Revitalisation project is that people and pedestrians are central to it and that they can move freely. So I suppose really it's up to yourselves to decide how much of that space you can take up.
Okay.
Maybe it's something that hangs above and people walk under it.
Okay.
Or engage it that way, that the
Yeah.
space is free but they're still under it or they walk through it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's the idea. I don't
Because they
know.
said the vertical section couldn't be higher than the parapets.
Yeah.
Then the things, I thought it could only go up like one level.
No, we agreed with the conservation officer here in the
Okay.
council that the parapet height of the adjacent buildings,
Yeah.
which is where the brick facades stop,
Very good.
that is where the proposal stops.
Nice.
But if it's small,
Yeah.
that's great too. And I really would like to emphasise size is not everything in this, it's quality. We're going for something high quality. We'd love to see something that's sophisticated and progressive and reflects Limerick going forward. We've had enough bad press about Limerick and there's a lot of good things here and we want to pull it out and to show it off.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
given that that the timescale for developing the project has been reduced by 2 weeks, do you not think it's a bit difficult for people to try and do all of this work in between now and the 16th of September?
Well, I suppose we had the brief out there in the public since, well, we had press release issued at the beginning of August and then it was put up on e-tenders on, I think it was the 14th of August. So it's been out there for about 2 or 3 weeks already.
I know.
So we've increased it by a week already, the deadline. We've pushed it out a week already.
I just think it's a huge amount of work for somebody to do in such a short space of time. For such a prestigious
I know.
project,
And I know, and the financial investment is
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll talk about the deadline and get back to you about that. I'd say over the next day or so. I do appreciate that.
I know for a fact that, I've spoken to a number of artists and they just said the deadline is too short. They couldn't possibly do anything of any decent, quality to submit for this stage.
Okay. Typically, what would be the amount of time you'd need?
You need at least a month to do something like this.
Well, I suppose it's been out there for a month from the 14th of August to...
But you see, today is really the start when people can ask questions and then they can develop
Really?
their proposals, yeah. That's generally the way that...
It can vary a lot though in terms of when the information when the brief goes out as to when people can submit information as well. You're saying that you've pushed the deadline out already by a week. Yeah.
And we already had an email address that you could email and put in any queries you had.
4 to 6 weeks
I
would be the deadline.
understand. Well, I also understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that this type of briefing wouldn't normally or wouldn't always happen either. So I don't know if that's correct from my understanding. I'm not saying I disagree with you, just I've understood that a live briefing wouldn't always be the case. But we'll certainly have a look at the dates, but I don't think we could add we couldn't say the end of September if we were to meet our own commitments to the street, we'll say, to have the proposal included, the tender package early next year, say, But leave it with us, I would say. We'll have to talk about that. It's a broader discussion. I can't make that decision here.
Could you just go back to the deadlines actually on your slide there
Yeah.
for a second? Thank you.
Sorry, where does e-tenders come into it?
We put the brief up on e-tenders. We have to put it out European-wide. So e-tenders then would be a European-wide call. So anybody who's registered on e-tenders who comes in under, I had ticked the box, artists will say. So anybody...
You don't need to be a company.
Oh no, not at all. No, it's individuals. So that would then have triggered anybody who's in under artists could go and check the brief.
Yeah.
And then we issued press releases at the same time. Well, actually earlier than that. So it's been out there in the public for about a month now, to be fair.
Just when you're saying the shortlist, you said a certain amount shortlisted. are you inviting those applicants to resubmit the proposal, further develop the proposal?
It's a further development of their proposal.
Okay.
We'll be offering €2,000 then to each stage
Yeah.
2 submitter or
Yeah.
competitor, if you like, and they'll have to be available then for an interview.
Yeah.
And that would be later, probably the end of November, I would say early December.
So is the funding given at the beginning or is it staggered along?
I haven't thought about far ahead. I don't know, Sheila, what would be normal? Would it be?
If you're selected, the payment will be so long as you
A lump
sign.
sum.
Yes, so long as you sign a sort of a small MOU between Limerick City County Council and the artist. There'll be, we'll issue the a small contract at stage 1 to stage 2.
So the money would be given throughout, is that what you're
Are
saying?
you talking about the 2,000 or the 500?
No, the whole funding.
Oh yeah, well, you have to get through stage 1 first
Yeah.
to stage 2, and then after that, it will be in a contract. It could be 70% up front,
Okay.
30%, but it'll be part of a contract.
Thanks, Sheila. I didn't know the answer to that. I might enter myself. Oh no. So I suppose it's also worth mentioning that if you register to submit something, we'll give you an anonymous, like a number, so that when we're selecting the projects for stage 2, we won't know who you are.
Okay.
So my husband was joking, he might enter, so.
Yeah.
But he won't. But it's anonymity just to ensure, because Limerick and Ireland is small, so we don't want to. We want to give everybody an equal chance.
Do you know the page there that you had for submission requirements?
Yes.
And the written response section?
Yes.
Are you looking for like production schedules in like
Oh,
Excel
no.
documents, or are you just looking for a paragraph of this is my intent? Like,
I think in the brief, have you all seen the brief? Actually,
Actually, I
We've
haven't, sorry.
That's fine. It's actually gone into in more detail there. But
Okay.
let me refer to my brief. I think we had just had an A4 sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4
You don't
A4
want like
pages.
a
but
Bible
that's max.
kind of like.
Yeah,
It's the concept. Is the concept,
it really is.
Yeah.
something that reflects the request
Yeah.
for ideas? And then, if so, you at the second stage, then you do
Yeah.
have to bring it to that kind of level of detail.
When's the delivery of the actual artwork or whatever installation to be realised? When's the actual delivery date of the? Well, it says to the final ending project.
Yeah, sure. I suppose it should be towards the end of 2020, early 2021, because that's when the project, if it gets through planning
Yeah.
and if it progresses, that's when it will be approaching completion. So you've a bit of time. You've a bit of time there.
I'm sure the intention would be not to block vehicle access up that street.
When we're actually taking out vehicular access on that street.
So, I mean, if just for argument's sake,
Yeah.
if a fire engine needed to get access to the street, how would if there was a sculpture
Yeah.
on the way, how do they get?
They would go by the laneway at the back of Brown Thomas and they can reverse back.
So there's not really a problem with putting a piece of work on that.
No, that's going to be pedestrianised.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll go back to it here if you like.
Are you talking about the Thomas Street section or the O'Connell Street section? Or all
Well,
of
that's
it?
Thomas Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that it there? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see this is yes,
okay.
pedestrianised. There is at the moment vehicular access limited onto it, it's timed, but they will still be able to come down the back of Brown Thomas and reverse in or drive in or whatever they need to do.
With all the work that's now you're saying about cobblestones and paving going in, for siting the sculpture there, would that be part of the building project going in?
Yes.
So the actual site for the sculpture, the cost of that would be borne by the development?
No, it should be borne by the commission, the 500,000. And that's why we need to, I suppose, get the whatever it would be, the art intervention decided. So before we go out to tender, or if we have to advise tenderers before they submit, if there's a change to the documentation to accommodate X we put in at this point here.
Yeah. No, what I'd be concerned is a lot of, if you start digging up there, will there be site plans, architectural plans, anything for?
That will be incorporated into the.
Archaeological plans.
Well, there isn't really much in terms of archaeology there. A lot of it is gone, unfortunately, and any vaults there are they're sufficiently far below the road surface that they're not affected by the scheme. But certainly any infrastructure that relates solely to the art will be borne by the Art Commission. But I would say we could argue that anything that relates to the street revitalisation or the street infrastructure will be borne by the capital project.
So it's open for discussion, there's a bit of...
I would say, yeah.
But just on, following on from that, the council would obviously work with the artist so that the foundations could be put in conjunction with...
Well, that's the intention, so it's incorporated into the scheme and not an add-on. That would be not desirable, I suppose. And we'd like to be able to meet with the artist at regular intervals during the development of the piece and also with the design team, so that as the project progresses, the capital project, as it progresses, we'll know then what we're putting in place to receive the artwork.
There's no point in retrofitting a piece of work into a site that's already developed.
Absolutely. And it would be nice if it could all come together. Then it's a whole change, you know.
Do you recommend an artist fee? How much it would be, which per annum?
It would be included in the commission amount.
Would you have a ballpark figure?
I'm not the person. Yeah. I'm not the person.
Somebody's worked as the public art advisor with the Arts Council for the last while. It's a very, very difficult question to answer, and I don't know anybody who would advise on a set percentage because it's just not fair. Some projects need a huge amount of studio time and development, others don't. So artists are very professional about how they will pitch what percentage they need to take themselves. There's no one answer to it, is what I'm trying to say.
The general guideline from the Arts Council or from the VIII would be roughly, 15 to 20%.
At a minimum.
Yeah.
You know, and again, it depends on how much studio time you're going to do, or whether you're subcontracting or having something fabricated. It's a very considerable budget. It's one of the biggest budgets we've seen for public art in Ireland for a very long time.
Yeah.
So,
on that point, I mean, most of us that have done public art, the maximum budget that any of us would have been used to would be 60,000. So, is that going to mitigate against us in terms of applying for something that's $500,000?
I think it's more quality that will decide this. Quality, and I suppose in terms of the previous works, it's ability to deliver. And I appreciate where you're coming from. But if it's an excellent piece of work for 60,000, that stands to you. You've done a lot with very little, or relatively little, we'll say. I don't think that would be for me anyhow.
No, it's about being able to scale up, and it's an opportunity to scale up your practice. This is the ambition of the project.
Would there be any objections to connecting the site to another part of that intersection?
Physically or conceptually?
Physically and conceptually.
Well,
I suppose my question would be more physically, really, at the moment.
So the plans as they are, I suppose, would need a little bit of interrogation to see whether that can be done because of there's no traffic there, but there is traffic.
Well, there is traffic here. Now, maybe 2 lanes for cars or 2 lanes for buses, or maybe no cars or buses. Part 8 will decide that, but it's to be open at present. But certainly, look, we invite, as I said earlier, we would invite controversy,
And if the budget wasn't all used up, what would happen then?
We'll go to the pub. I'll buy you on a drink. I don't know. We'd have to look and see. If that is the way it's left at the end, that would be great.
Well, there's always potentially the need for
maintenance
and it can be put into that. But that actually has to be in your proposal as well, the maintenance plan.
That's right. I think that's in the stage 2.
Stage 2.
Yeah,
because it's permanent, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about that.
Unless it gets decommissioned.
The information agenda up there is in the brief, isn't it?
Yes, I'm just condensing it all. Yeah, to remind myself what I wrote.
the email address that the file submissions are sent to?
It's OCS, I think OCS Commission.
Same one.
Same one, I'm pretty sure. Now, I think, did I have something on e-tenders as well, I think? I'll just
Submit your register.
Submit your, is it?
Yeah.
I'll clarify that anyhow.
Generally, if it's on e-tenders, you have to submit through e-tenders.
You can't do it through the email address then? No. Okay.
No.
And because you have to meet EU
You can't
guidelines.
PDF or JPEG, you can
You can, yes.
You can.
You can upload folder or files. So, okay, well I will send that clarification out to everybody tomorrow then. Thanks for that.
Don't want to send to the wrong one the day before the deadline.
My Hotmail from 1999. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, e-tenders needs it, you need to navigate it a little, but it is like any other kind of online system. With like boxes and places for each kind of item, if you like. But if you have any problem, I think the offer is there to email into the email, and we can talk you through that.
Yeah, that's true actually.
Because we have a procurement officer as well, who's happy to, help in the process.
What's the community sort of like in the vicinity of that? In terms of what sort of communities would be?
We'd have quite a large migrant community actually on Limerick Street, which is quite close to there. And you have smaller transient, I would say, students mostly. But then the larger community, if you come out a little bit, then you've got quite strong communities, maybe half a mile away. So say where I'm living on Wolftone Street or Joseph Street, we'd have quite an identifiable community of people who live there and will be there for life,
And schools?
Again, schools, the closest school to this would probably be the school project on
The
Gael Cloche.
The tutorial and all those places.
Yeah,
And a lot of play schools as well.
Yeah.
So there's a retail kind of community during the day, and at night time there's the nighttime economy like every city. But Maria's right, the core city centre is the new community, the new Irish live in the core community, and even if you take a walk down the boardwalk where we have some sculptures already, they're showing us how to reuse our public spaces, which is kind of interesting.
Even the playground in the People's Park, I notice that it's busy at night time. Like that, the new Irish, they're out at 8 o'clock at night, and my kids are like, what are you bringing me to bed for? But, it's, so they know how to use public space. Yeah.
And Thomas Street itself isn't residential.
Not to an extent that would be identifiable.
So even it's still going to be transient traffic as such, foot traffic through it rather than actual
offices, business, retail.
One pub.
Quite a good, quite good pubs actually.
Lots of coffee shops.
Supermax.
Yeah, exactly.
Right across the way.
Responsible of a hurling team now, we'll say no more.
The Augustinian Church is just up the road, very active. In particular.
So the Augustinians is, crikey, it's here.
Yeah.
It's the Augustinians. So in the scheme we picked out some, identified as key buildings, and I suppose the proposal tries to make much of them, make an implied space outside them. Again, that could change during the part 8 in a couple of weeks, but certainly we're trying to mark the special features, special things. That it's a journey or a promenade, and you enjoy the different features as you see them. At the moment you can't see them because of the car parking or just the street clutter. But the artwork is one piece of street clutter we're inviting, but it's to be high quality, as I said, forward looking.
And Bedford Row is pedestrianised and gets animated by street entertainers, and we try to programme it during Christmas and Culture Night and things like that. So that's Bedford Row, and then half of Collins Street is pedestrianised.
Yes.
And again, you'd find street entertainers occupying that space and animating it.
Cruiser Street as well has started to become more animated, as you say, but
we use that for Christmas markets.
So there will be no more parking at all on Collins Street?
No more.
You heard it here.
I'm ready for you, come on.
All over the Limerick Leader.
Oh, it's been all over. God, I can't look at the post anymore now. So has anybody any more questions, or is there anything? Yeah, go
One
for it.
more. You said that I think you want a CV of the people that are working on this. Do you want your team? If
Each
you have
team
one?
member should have a CV.
Yeah. And any other credentials? Is it kind of like?
It's really just to tell us who you are,
Yeah.
I guess. You know, that you're a
what
made-up
kind of
person.
people are they?
Yeah, just have they got a background and can they deliver?
Yeah.
This is going to happen.
Exactly.
As long as the Part 8 gets over the line now next week with the O'Connell Street project, the capital project, this project will happen.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that those who we entrust with it deliver it, and not a poor version of what they promised
Yeah.
in a month's time, you know.
Yeah.
And if it is a collaboration of artists, you know, explain the collaboration so that, you know, where, why and what,
Yeah.
basically. Because that's what the concept is going to be.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
And is there room to develop, I don't know, maybe like a program along with these kind of submissions that, I don't know, there could be a longer project, the way that the artwork is actually created itself with the artist. Is there kind of room for that in this
Yeah.
kind of submission?
An engagement piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. If that's part of the process,
Yeah.
then you say that.
Yeah.
No, we'd be using the guidelines that are out there, the public art guidelines, which, you know, are for that kind of broad engagement piece.
So is there a large team deciding on who's going to get this? Or is
But
it-
stage 1 will be quite small, I would
Yeah.
imagine. There will only be a few
Yeah.
outside individuals as well.
Yeah. Okay.
But there is a team that's set out in the brief for stage 2. So it'll be a mix of
Oh, my
professional
God.
artists and the design team and,
Yeah.
as I said earlier,
Very good.
councillors as well, the mayor, you know, so that the stakeholders, everybody has a say, but we don't want to hand over the decision fully to any one group.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So as I said, if have a look at the brief, it's set out
Yeah.
there. We haven't invited anybody as yet. That's the next job to be done. Pin down dates.
In stage 2, will the presentation be
Required. Yeah.
required?
Oh, like yes, yeah.
Not an interview, but an actual presentation on
Yes,
the
that
piece.
will probably be forming part of the interview, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Very exciting. I thought that there would be a lot more people here today. Have
Oh,
you
yeah.
had anyone
It's
call?
being recorded and
Yeah.
broadcast.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. I
It
think
is
this could be huge.
big deal.
You
Yeah.
know, big. It's and you know, we could be really capturing something
Yeah.
very unique.
The e-tenders, have you had any interest European-wide?
A little
Yeah,
bit.
queries, yeah.
Yeah, a
Queries.
little bit.
You can see them if you're registered. You can see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have had some interest from England as well and from abroad. So we'll see now if they watch this tonight when they're pasta or whatever they'll be eating. So but yeah, a bit of interest. So we'll see now what comes in. In terms of the date, we'll have discussion here and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, I just think you're cutting yourselves, you know, short by having it so tight. You know? I mean,
Yeah.
you're not giving. You could get a lot more people to submit if you extend the deadline. I mean, I am going to submit, but the other person that's submitting with me, like, we'd have to work night and day to get something done by the 16th.
Well, look, we'll see what we come up with here.
I think it's important. The message around the date is important, and because it changed, maybe we do a little campaign around it and then decide whether there's an extension or not, and do that. Because I know myself, I had something in my head for today, and I was like, oh, I wonder what time that. And then I realised it was 3 o'clock closing. I was like, oh, 10 to 3 hours, do the thing. So yeah, it is important about the messaging. It's clear. It's like such and such a date, such and such time, all attachments. And then because it's an online system, it will close down, and you won't be able to submit past it. So just remember that
Yeah.
when and if we decide to extend.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much everybody for coming. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
Thanks
everybody
for your
taking the
time.
time to come in. Thank you. Sheila.